Os.
Us.
Os. Welcome to the Wazari Ippon podcast, episode 9. My name is Chris, and as always, I'm one of the hosts of the show. And my usual co-host, Path, is again traveling for work. So I have another guest host on for this episode. My longtime internet friend, Ben Vale from Perth, Australia, and he practices and teaches Arjuken Karate, which is a knockdown style of karate. And he's a seasoned fighter in Australia, and most recently fought in the Shidokan World Tournament or All
Yeah, that
Japan.
was that was the in 2019, just literally like I think it was about probably 3 days before COVID hit.
Wow.
The last one I went in was just in April, was the Rengo Kai World Tournament.
Yeah, so the Kyokushin Union, not the World Union.
That's right.
Kyokushin Union Rengo Kai World Tournament just last month or so, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, Ben, good to have you on the show. Good to finally meet you.
Oh man, it's been years, man. I'm so happy to actually get to talk to you face to face. It was an expensive flight to New York otherwise. So.
For sure. But yeah, so aside from karate, me and Ben talk almost on a weekly basis about our other favorite passion, which is hardcore punk music.
Hell yeah.
We're only about 2 years apart in age, so we sort of came up with the same sort of bands, or listening to the same sort of bands, I think. So we'll talk about karate first. This is a karate podcast, and then later on in the podcast we'll talk about hardcore. So yeah, Ben. So tell me a little bit about your martial arts background. How did you get started? What styles did you start in?
All right, cool. So I think it's about the age of 5 or 6. I started martial arts, and literally the reason was that typical kind of movie story of being bullied. Used to get bullied. The reason why I was extremely overweight as a child, I was on a drug called prednisolone for my asthma, and I was on it for a very, very long time because I had it quite severe. And it made me put on weight like crazy. Like it was just an unfortunate side effect of that. And what happened was I was getting bullied and all that type of stuff. So my parents were like, all right, we need to. There was a few physical altercations where I kind of just stood there with my head down and got pushed around. My dad's a very hard man and kind of went, nah, I've had enough of this shit. You're going to go in and learn how to fight. My first martial art actually that I started at 5 was Taekwondo. Now I did that for about 2 years. Yeah, 2 years, right? Now my dad kind of went. I remember like my dad was in and out, kind of seeing it, and my mum would take me there and pick me up and all that type of stuff. And my dad came and watched it one time, and he went, "Oh no, this isn't for us." And I think the reason why, obviously, like at that point, I was about 7 years old, and there were kids that were like 8 or 9 walking around with like the Taekwondo of equivalent black belt, and he was like, "No, I don't think this is going to work out." So he pulled me out, and then pretty much how to explain where we found my dojo as a child is my hometown is I'm originally from New South Wales, so the other side of Australia, and it's I live in this very, very small town. Well, back then it was a lot smaller, called Hallidays Point. Now, this town it's one of these like picturesque kind of beach paradises that you can live at, and very fortunate to grow up there. And we have obviously surf lifesavers, right? All up and down the coast in Australia. Now, where we have these things called surf clubs, they're normally located right on the beach, and that's where the surf lifesavers will have like all their equipment stored and all that. But they normally have like a hall, like a wooden floor hall that you can hire for weddings and other groups and all that. So my parents started to try and find like something else that was around, and Arjuken just started there. And Dad's like, oh, we'll go down and check it out. And it was like 5 minutes from my house, so we drove down, and that's where we met my sensei John Butt, and yeah, Dad was like, wow, this is cool. You know, this is what I'm talking about. So we went straight to that. And I think I was about 9 years old at that point, and I haven't stopped. I think I stopped for a few years from like 17 to 19, I think it was. And that was because I used to play quite high end field hockey. Um,
Wow.
I
Okay.
was like, my dream was to be in the Olympics for that. So it got to the point where training and stuff like that for both was going to be too difficult. But obviously, karate highly influenced how I trained and like the
Yeah.
discipline and all that type of stuff. Yeah, like I used to be a goalkeeper, and I had a pretty horrific back injury back then around that, so I had to get my back better. And then I didn't want to play hockey again. I had a lot of my kind of dreams shattered with that, which was fine. And then I said, you know what? At that point, I was first cue. I said,
Hmm.
you know, I need to get my Shodan, and then I'll stop. And then yeah, from there, I think it was about like 20 when I got my Shodan, and that was probably the path of enlightenment for me, where I went, this is, you know, I thought I could handle myself. I can't. This sucks. Doing like your 40-man kumite and all that type of
Yeah.
stuff. And then you know, after that, I went, okay, cool. I think I'm gonna open a club here in Perth. Pretty much, we started as a started in my garage. I bought some mats,
Wow.
ran it for free. We just ran every Saturday and Sunday. People came and trained, and then a local dojo that was still kind of going and using their space said, "Well, do you want to come and run the club, run your club from us?" I went, "Yeah, no problem, sweet," like that. And that's been, we actually had our 10-year anniversary just this year, so it's been a
Wow.
long, hard slog.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. It's
Yeah.
it's literally it's the most rewarding and daunting job at the same time, because there's a lot of responsibility in trying to be a good teacher in any job, but especially karate, because obviously, you know, obviously you've been around and you can see what happens if there's bad senseis or bad senpais around.
Yeah, dude. So it's funny. We have a lot of similarities, man. So I
Yeah, yeah, one
started,
hundred percent.
yeah, I started, Taekwondo when I was 4, and I wanted to be a Power Ranger, and my dad told me I could be a Power Ranger if I did
Yeah,
karate, and so he knew a guy through. My dad used to be like a pretty, pretty good power lifter, so
yeah,
he knew a guy through his gym, his lifting gym, who taught boxing at this like taekwondo place near my house. And it was actually called Jiu-Jitsu Concepts, but it taught taekwondo. But so
if it works, man.
who knows, man.
Yeah, yeah,
But I went in. I remember like going, like signing up, and um you know uh, my first teacher was this guy Tom, and back then it was actually like legit, like karate, I guess.
yeah,
For even though it was taekwondo, like we learned how to break fall, we learned how to roll like as little kids. And um you know it would take me a take you couldn't pay me enough to do a roll now, but back
yeah,
then it was quite fun. And I felt like a Power Ranger at 4, right? And
yeah,
I eventually moved on to different Taekwondo schools as a little kid, and I was a child black belt at 10. But
yeah, yeah.
to me, it was like the mindset, right? Like I
One
accomplished
hundred percent.
something,
Yeah, yep,
and that sort of changed my whole life, right? So even some of my usernames, right, for different things are related to that time. And I was always reading Black Belt magazine and stuff like that, or different karate magazines, Taekwondo Times or whatever it was.
yep,
And then so I sort of stopped training around high school as well. Just I live in the Bronx, which is sort of one of the parts of New York City, but I was going into Manhattan for high school, which is sort of what people think of New York City, like Times Square and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, so it was a quite a trip for a 13 or 14-year-old, getting up, leaving at like 6:30 in the morning and not coming home until 5 or 6 or whatever. And
yeah. Wow,
it just
yeah,
wasn't to me, it wasn't feasible to train. And I also got kind of tired of taekwondo. I was tired of being the kid, or the kid black belt in the kids class, where I couldn't move
yeah,
up to the adults or whatever. And but I trained sporadically in high school, and then I found Kyokushin um, during a really bad time in my life. Like we'll get to it a little bit later, our experiences in Japan, but just to sort of summarize, I was supposed to study abroad in 2011 in March, or I was supposed to leave in April of 2011, and the tsunami and earthquake happened in March of that year.
Oh, yeah,
So it kind of cut my plans
yeah,
for going to Japan. And as we've probably talked about privately, or I've expressed on here or social media, like going to Japan was my dream since I was a
yeah,
little
yeah,
kid, right? So to sort of have my dreams shattered and taken away from me, like what I was sort of at a loss for, how do I get out of this, right? So
yeah,
what is something that made me feel good? What is something that I loved doing was martial arts. Like it was my whole life at one point, right? So I remember seeing that episode of Fight Quest with Kyokushin, and I was like,
oh
yo,
no.
I was like, that seems like the hardest thing in the world, right? And I just needed a challenge, and it turns out there was a Kyokushin school in Manhattan, and I went to join, and it was like that was 12 years ago on May 10th.
Oh
So
wow, that's
that was
awesome, man.
so I of course I've always been a big kid, so I definitely sympathize with being the chubby kid, being the fat kid,
Yeah,
and not being able to at the time sort of do anything about it, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
was nothing. You're just you're just a fat kid, right? Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to lose some weight or whatever, and you can take care of it, but like back then you don't know, and people just say the worst
You really
things,
don't. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you really don't. And
yeah,
especially, I mean, like I was at that kind of what you call
yeah,
elementary school age. I was just
yeah,
kind of like, why is this happening to me like that?
yeah,
I didn't think I was a bad person back then.
no, yeah,
I don't know. It was a long
yeah,
time ago. I could have been an
yeah,
absolute shithead. But you kind of, and especially with like going back to obviously we're talking about your dream was to go to Japan and how much that's just it gets cut in front of you, and you're like, what now? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
I
like
mean, it's the
I
similar
think,
to
yeah,
the hockey thing, right?
yeah,
Like,
one
yeah,
hundred percent.
yeah,
And like the thing is, at that age, like it was all around the same age, only a few
yeah,
years apart when that happens, and you kind of at that point you don't understand. Like if that happens now, we turn around and go, step back and go, all right, well, what can I do? But back then it's no, life's over. And
yeah,
you kind of it's heartbreaking, but it's I think with maturity and growing up and kind of seeing the bigger picture a bit more,
mm-hmm.
like I can look back and have a look at that back injury that happened. I actually cracked my L3, L4, and
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
yeah, it was pretty bad, yeah. And it was I can look back at that, and although it was one of the hardest things that happened to me, it's probably one of the best things because it and if it wasn't, I don't think obviously I have to thank my parents a lot for how supportive and how fantastic they are. And my dad's whole attitude he's my hero. He pretty much is just like, remember one day I was just like in my room, just like that, sitting around. I remember he just opened the door, and I hope you don't mind language. Get
No,
the
go
fuck
ahead.
up, stop sobbing. It's time. You got to move on. Let's go. And I just remember kind of looking up at him, going, "Oh, whatever," like that.
Yeah,
And then obviously karate kind of gives you that. Hang on, no, he's right. And then I went, okay, what do I need to do? Started doing the rehab properly, and then right now at 33 years old, where back then I should have been close to peak fitness. I'm probably the fittest and strongest I've ever been. I mean, yeah, like we get the
good for
bumps and
you.
aches.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you come home from training and you go, oh, might have sparred a bit, a little bit too hard. Like my mind hasn't grown past 17 and a half years old, but my body feels like it's 90 at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but that's, I think back then the age and having that dream shattered, and like the biggest thing as well is like both of them obviously things that you can't help, and that's what I think it's. I think sometimes if you know that it's something that you've done, you can kind of go, no, that you're an idiot and you need to move on. But when it's something that's completely out of control, like the tsunamis, like
Yeah, man.
horrible, horrible,
Yeah.
horrible thing. I mean, Japan and Australia are very close, and obviously when that happened, we're kind of like, oh my god, like watching it, just going, what the hell's going on, and we can't, we can't even explain because we have some natural disasters over here,
Mm-hmm.
like fires and floods, and some of them, like especially the fires past couple of years, they're astronomical, and it's kind of you can't. We don't have like tsunamis, and we can't like imagine how big that would have been for
Yeah,
Japan. Like it's just a wall of water, just never stops.
I
So
know. Yeah.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
even
yeah.
like New York. Like New York is pretty in a relatively good place.
Mm.
America's huge, right? Same with Australia. Like, so
Yeah,
we have forest fires, we have all sorts of twisters. They're like,
yeah, yeah.
so
That stuff's
like
fucking wild. They make movies over that stuff, man. It's crazy.
like,
Twisted the movie.
yeah, like, so the worst thing I was even used to was like what we call like a nor'easter, which is like a almost like it's like a tropical storm. It's like
Mm.
before it becomes a hurricane or a typhoon or whatever it is. Like, so that was like the worst weather I ever experienced. Like, prior to, we had like a real hurricane, about 10 years ago or so,
Yeah, yeah.
that hit New York pretty bad. But yeah, dude, like, it was, I can't even imagine a tsunami. And like, when I was
Yeah.
living in Japan for when I was working in Japan, like eventually in 2015, I went to teach English, um, and my building had like signs for where to go in case of a tsunami. I was like,
Man, that's the
we're like for like I could bike to the beach or whatever, but like it wasn't even like a real beach. It was just like some little coastline to a bay, and I was like, that's
yeah,
like
like
that's so
how?
far away from
Yeah.
where I live.
Yeah. You start to scratch
Yeah.
your head and go, oh shit. Oh yeah, well how far do these signs go? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually, so I went exploring. There was a bear, or it wasn't. It was, I guess, full contact sort of karate and like kickboxing place. Like, full contact and karate tend to mix in Japan for like
Mm.
the Kyokushin offshoot kind of styles.
Yes, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so there was one by the beach, and that guy ended up. I saw him later in the year fight in a um, bare knuckle kickboxing match, which I've talked about
Is
a couple
that the
times
pro
on here.
karate? That pro karate
Yeah.
group? Oh, dude,
so,
like
so
headbutting each other and stuff,
yeah,
man. It's
dude, it
just a
was
street
nuts.
fight.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
So now they're all like kind of, it's like professional MMA with small gloves now, but like
yeah,
back then there were no gloves. Like, it
yeah.
was insane. And but
It's
yeah,
it's
that guy
interesting.
from my
Like,
neighborhood, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually met. I mean, years ago, and this was like, it was about 2016, 17. I seen that, and I went, wow. Like that. I actually sent them a message. I was like, oh, do you have foreigners come over and fight in this? They're like, would you like to? And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. Like, I'm just asking like that. It'd be interesting to do. I think that would, we talk about going in the tournaments and big kumates for gradings and stuff like that too
Mhm.
to test. But like, let's be honest, like the ultimate test would be something like that. That's the closest thing we're going to get to a refereed street fight. That type
Yeah,
of stuff. That is the ultimate test to see whether your stuff works.
yeah,
Which is crazy.
and it's wild because like or I don't know how your groundwork is, but it was like you would probably do really well because at that time, at that particular tournament, I don't want to speak ill of that organization or anything, but it was pretty, like, I could have walked into the ring and like fought. Like,
Yeah. Wow.
it
Yeah.
was kind of, amateur-ish.
Yep.
There, it was, but it was brutal, man.
To be
It was
honest, man, I
crazy.
think anyone who actually knows how to fight's probably going, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm going to get hurt like that. Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, for like speaking about ground game, like I've been doing BJJ for a little bit, and actually, luckily enough, growing up in that dojo as a kid, we had a Senpai Adam who was a Shodan. I think he got the Nidan as well in Arjuken. And he was, I'm pretty certain he was a shadow selection for the Olympics, the Olympic team for judo for Australia,
Wow.
right? And I think what happened, he tried a few years, he just didn't get in. I think maybe his age and all that type of stuff. So we had like a judoka there that taught us how to throw and how to break fall, and we didn't have mats, so the wooden floor was kind of like that was our greatest teacher. He'd be like, bang, oh, okay. Got to straighten your arm. That elbow's going to break, man. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. Bang, is that better? Nah, you hit your head on the back on the floor. You're knocked out now. So the throws and all that type of stuff was something that we had kind of incorporated with us a lot. But I've just started doing BJJ kind of properly, especially during the COVID period, because we were locked away in Western Australia. Like Perth is one of the most isolated city in the world, right? It is insane to get anywhere, how hard it is to travel to the other parts of our country. It costs at least $1,000 each pop for a tournament. Like, so $1,000 Australian, which probably is about, $3 American at the moment. We're about to go on recession, so
it's still probably a couple hundred, right? So
yeah. It's I think it'd be probably about 600 US or
still,
something like that. Yeah,
for a
but
flight,
so you got your accommodation, all that. So it's we're super isolated. So when we were one of the states, we're kind of like Japan in the sense with COVID. Actually, that was the first time that I've seen a big similarity that we kind of got locked away. So. No one was allowed in or out. If you left, you couldn't come back. It was crazy.
Jesus
so
Christ. Australia was just crazy in general.
Yeah, dude.
It
was the most horrible time as well. We'll go into that later, but I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of my good friends that I've trained with for years, actually one of them was a groomsman at my wedding, Pablo Del Torrealba. He's the head coach for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at Scrappy MMA, which is where, you got the greats, up and coming Jack Della, who's in the UFC. He trains there. He's a great guy. He's a really nice dude. He's a machine. And then Daniel Williams, so Mini T, who's on one championship, who fought, stood up the wrong tang on 3 weeks' notice, and everyone went, who is this guy? Yeah, and he did get knocked out. When they were like, oh, I'm fighting Rod Tang in 3 weeks. Oh, okay. Have fun. Like that. And he went in and it was an amazing, that gym's amazing. And I've been going there and doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In 3 weeks, I've signed myself up for a white belt comp. So I'm going to see how it goes.
Good for you.
It's amazing. It's the first competition I've driven to in a car in close to 10 years. So I get to have breakfast and just go, oh, I'll see you later. See you later, babe. Kiss my kids goodbye. I think they're coming to watch,
Nice.
So I don't even know. So I'll drive up and come back. So, yeah, the ground game stuff is a big eye opener for anyone who's striking based. Because you go, oh, I'll just knock them out before they grab you. No, you fucking won't. They will grab you and you will be, it's scary because obviously, with that judo background, there's obviously the main positions on the ground, all that type of stuff. That there was it was like, oh my God, I know what's going to happen, but then they just pull something out. You go, oh, I'm dead now. That's it. They've actually just killed me. So those competitions, those bare knuckle competitions in Japan, they are wild. They are, but that's once again, if you think you can do that, step in. Why would you not? Probably if my head hadn't been beaten around too much through K1 and stuff like that, I'd probably step in. And if I didn't have kids, absolutely. But I can't be a potato, man. Yeah. Oh man, it's too much hard work. I think my wife would kill me if I said, oh, I'm going to Japan to fight. Yeah, cool. What are you doing? Bare knuckle. Oh yeah, well everything's bare knuckle. Knockdown's bare knuckle. Oh, this is different. Yeah.
It's bare knuckle kickboxing.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I think that's a good sort of transition. You were into talking a little bit about your style. So Arjuken, so I just want to apologize. Maybe a couple episodes ago, in my conversation with Path, we were kind of making fun of it. So I was just caught up in the moment with the name. I called it whack, but I just want to apologize because I don't really know anything about it. So
all right, so the story, I'll give you the whole story about what we know. All right, so with one of my students, a good mate of mine, Nathan Dufresne, he's like an 8th Q. He's the world's greatest club man. You know what I mean? He loves, he lives for the club. He's like, this is our family, and that's how it should be, right? Clubs should be like that. I hate the old, we bow on, it's super serious and stuff. We nowhere else in the world you beat the living crap out of someone and go, oh yeah, cool, thanks for that, like that. It's a special bond, you know what I mean? So he's an electrician, but he should be a private investigator, and he over like nearly 2 years, because without sounding horrible, I think in the Philippines they're kind of not that good at record keeping. They don't really. They kind of go, "Oh, this has happened. Okay, cool, thanks, high five," and then it's like, I guess the world will find out through whispers. You know what I mean? So we've been looking up a lot of doing a lot of research about obviously our background and how we came to all that type of stuff, and we've kind of drawn a few conclusions, and pretty much Arjuken was made by a guy called Ernesto Prias, sorry, who is one, and his brother as well, who were close to some of the like godfathers, or you know, one of the big pioneers of Anis.
Okay.
Right. What happened was they developed Arjuken, which ended up being kind of like a system which had different elements of these martial arts. So the name Arjuken itself, which I completely agree with you guys, is whack, right? Because they've broken it down to Arnis Jiu-Jitsu Kendo, Arjuken, right? Okay. So they've pretty much gone, oh, okay, here's the English words. Maybe we could just do this and just chuck it all on like that. And that's what they've done, right? The karate aspect came from Shotokan, okay, and this is the old JKA. So Suzuki Shian, who was the JKA branch chief for the JKA in the Philippines, was actually their Shian for karate. So they did the old style JKA, which is like, you know, the bare knuckle point sparring type of stuff. Which once again
it's so brutal.
Is man, this is so dope to watch, but I'm just like, oh, like I get headaches watching it. I'm like, you know, that the phantom pains of like your nose being pushed across your face, you know. And so we've been trying for a long time, and Nathan, you know, he's amazing. He's actually got, you know, tracked down people from the US, Canada, a lot of expats from the Philippines who trained with Ernesto Prias and his brother, who were like, no, they're, you know, because the big thing for us, and especially with karate or any martial art, is lineage, you know, like we turn around, well, where is this made up, you know? Yeah. So we turned around and found out that they were a fifth dan or godan in Shotokan, which was pretty cool. Wow, you know what I mean? They also did Shido-Ryu to an extent that we know of.
And when was this happening? Like the 50s?
Oh,
the 60s,
dude, like
or?
60s, yeah, in the 60s. So a long time ago. I might be wrong there, and I'm sure if anyone who, please, if anyone who listens to this from Arjuken around the world, please correct me, because God, you know, you guys are the hardest people to find in the world. So what eventually happened is, what we've concluded is that it was pretty much done that. And this was at the peak of karate being extremely popular around, you know, the Bruce Lee era, all that type of stuff. So we pretty much, I think the karate was inserted into the system to try and get people to go, oh yeah, karate's there. And then, oh, we're going to introduce Anis and Manu Manu, which is the open hand version of that, stick free. And it's just still a lock, block, blow type of thing. It's very similar to kind of kung fu type of stuff.
Okay.
Like the self-defense application. If you have a look at any type of stick fighting, it's 1, 2, 3 locks, all that type of stuff. It's always like a 1, 2, 3 and snap, snap, snap type of thing. I don't really practice any of that because it is a system, you know what I mean? My grade is in the karate part of that. Okay. But I think what eventually happened, it sounds terrible. It's like, well, hang on, how are we going to get people to join up? We'll introduce this. You know, they've gone in, introduced it, and then I think slowly over time they got rid of the karate syllabus, and it turned into modern Anis, which is Arjuken actually went defunct and turned into modern Anis.
Oh wow!
Which is and that's the thing. So we as Arjuken Karate, like we don't have a hombu in the Philippines, and you know we don't have anything that, like, what I've got is Xian, Jeff and Chris Trash, who were two brothers who were both 6 dans or Rokudan, and they're in Sydney. And they're very supportive, but very small clubs. And they've kept to the kind of point style stuff in regards to competition. So they actually do Koshiki rules, a lot of the Koshiki rules. Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, definitely not my cup of tea.
Because it's like, it's like full contact but points, right? Like you can hit
Yeah,
as
and they've
hard
got
as
like
they
the
have like that
kudo
helmet.
helmet
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah,
body armor and stuff like that. And they, obviously no like Genamorshis and stuff like
yeah.
that, which obviously makes me cry one single tear when I watch it because I'm like that front leg is just asking for it. I see someone going that point, even in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
UFC that point style stuff, and I just go like that. You get it's like
Bang.
you smack your lips. You're like, oh, that'd be nice to kick that, wouldn't it? They're asking for it. But yeah, I've got those, both Xian, Jeff, and Chris there. Xian Chris is actually like, I think a third dan in BJJ, and I think he doesn't even really practice Arjuken anymore. He's just gone straight into, BJJ. And Xian Jeff, has a dojo over there. Same type of scenario. We just rent the space
Mhm.
and, they concentrate on that. But I think, they've got a lot more. But it looks at a lot more juniors, so they go into that kind of like that either clicker style or Koshiki rules type of point
Mhm.
sparring stuff. Where, when actually to be honest, how I got into knockdown karate or look because obviously we knew of those competitions and all that type of stuff. And when I used to train as a teenager, it was nearly like a novelty if we trained knockdown because you didn't have to protect your head. My sensei was a nutcase, and you'd be like, gloves on, let's go. And it was always the cotton gloves. You'd be getting cracked in the head,
Oh,
like that. And this sucks. Like, we used to go home and go, this sucks. But, if it was like, oh, we're going to do this because we did have Kyokushin guys who were coming through town because we were like a resort town, come and train. They kick your leg. You go, oh my God. Felt like an earthquake. So doing the knockdown rules and stuff as a teenager was kind of a novelty, it was really cool. You know, my sensei was always kind of like, you need to train everything, be a complete martial arts, because if a grappler grabs you, we've got a judoka dude here, you throw a punch, he just covers up and grabs you, your head's on the ground, you're dead, you know what I mean? And all that type of stuff. So he was really good like that. And obviously we did a lot of like kind of kickboxing type of stuff as well. But yeah, so that's like the remnants of Arjuken now. So I mean, when to be honest, man, it sounds like a bit of a cash grab. Like back in the day, they're kind of like, well, how are we gonna get these people in?
Add
Um,
karate.
yeah. Well, I mean, geez, back then, it was such an exotic thing, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that I'm from the '60s, but I could imagine, exotic karate, and all that type of stuff. So that's our understanding of how it happened. Once again, if I'm wrong, anyone out there in the world, please let us know. But it's the knockdown type of stuff. How I turned around, I went, you know what, like, because I wasn't even thinking of competing. And then I literally saw the trailer to Jian Judd Reed's 100-Man Kumite DVD.
Really?
Yeah, and I went, fuck yeah, it's time. Like that. And that's, from there, that's where, obviously I started, I practice getting ready because I was doing, Shotokan Kyokushin over here in Perth when I was a first Q,
Mhm.
and, also a lot of like K1 and Muay Thai, doing everything I could to get myself ready for my Kumite because I had to fly back over east for my Shodan grading. And, once I turned around and saw that, and obviously, I was very sporadically doing Kyokushin over here. I obviously seen that DVD and I was like, yeah, it's time to fight. This is awesome. And I love the rule set as well, like, because I think it's, people don't understand, anyone can close their fist and punch someone in the head. It's going to hurt, you know what I mean? Like, you can have the skinniest, nerdiest dude punch someone who's 100 kilos. It stings, it's like, ow. And if you hit them in the right spot, you'll knock them out, right? But to stand there and actually get, obviously the body shots and the leg kicks as well, it can be a very big awakening for people, I think, that rule set. So when I've seen that, and that's when I decided, yeah, cool, that's what we need to do. So our club, my dojo now, is we do obviously like our Kata and Keon, which is Shotokan based.
Mhm.
And then all our Ida Geckos, all Shotokan based. So obviously the similarities are, Pinan on knees, Hey Nidan, all that type
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So yeah. So very similar, longer stances, a lot more like that for us. But it's very, our dojos now, like Xian Jeff's dojo is a lot different to how mine is run. But we still have this immense respect for each other, and he's And I think, well, I'm hoping he's very, he's happy with how we're going and the direction we're going, because we're actually doing quite well
Good.
in a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have pretty much full autonomy, right?
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like
100%.
affiliated
Yeah.
with him, but you can
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
decisions for your own. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And I love that. And it's, I kind of, I look back at a lot of, obviously I'm very fortunate the past 10 years. We are tiny. We've got like 15 people in our dojo, or we have had a lot more, but a lot of people leave. Obviously, life pulls you in different directions. But
Sure.
we, I've had the opportunity to nearly fight in close to every organization you can think of. Simply just because they're like, oh, who are you? Yeah, sure, come along. You know what I mean? Like, there's no connections to any of the organizations. And we kind of, obviously we kind of sit back. It's like that Michael Jackson gif with the popcorn kind of going, oh, and you see the organizations talking crap about each other on the internet. We're like, oh, here we go. Like, this is great. Like days of our life type of stuff. But we kind of, I think we're very fortunate in the fact that we have that autonomy, because we can fight in any organization. We can run how we run. The Keon and the Kata obviously is the same. I think to be honest, I think I might have added more stuff in to our Keon. Not too much more, but obviously I'll get back to that in a second, actually, because
Sure.
your last episode with Shian Todd was fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you,
like
man.
we're talking about, and his concept of Keon, that fundamental stuff that really hit home. But yeah, I see a lot of, especially Kyokushin groups, like, bang, you must, and you will teach a kick this way, and if you don't, it's wrong. And
Yeah.
that's not how it works. It's not how it works at all. And you can see it now in the world tournaments that it's an exchange of the same techniques. You know what I mean? And there's zero like, obviously I will not in this episode name organizations at all, because like
Sure.
I'm on good terms with every single one of them. And
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Like every single one of them had open arms to us. You know what I mean? Come in,
Good.
come find our tournaments, and getting to hang out with all the different senseis and shians has been fantastic.
Sure.
But I think it's a concern for karate, 100%, that this is happening. That it's our way, or no, they teach that way. No, it's wrong. This is how you do it. No, that's not how it evolves. It's a bad thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Although, as I've said many times on this episode, so my own opinions don't reflect my organizations or my dojos. So,
Yeah.
where I think my organization, the IKO,
Mm.
is sort of in that this is our way. We're the only Kyokushin, and which I don't agree with at all. I think that's like sort of a backwards
Yeah.
mentality to have. But you're actually living my dream, man.
Thanks,
I
man.
have since I started, taekwondo or karate. Like, my dream is to have my own dojo, right? So like,
Yeah.
that to hear you, like, your story, and to hear that you've had it going for 10 years or so, like,
Yeah.
that's so cool, man. Like,
You can do,
that's
and
great. Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
ever think that you can't do it. I
Yeah.
mean, like
Yeah.
my job, like my dojo's not a business; it's non for profit. I don't make a single cent from it. I'm actually a high school teacher, so my high school teachers are, we're quite well off over here in Australia. We're going through a bit of a tough time at the moment because there's not enough teachers for work, so a lot of people get stretched out pretty much. But it's, my job pays for, obviously my house, my family, all that type of stuff. But it gives me this amazing opportunity to turn around and not have to worry about my dojo as a business. As like, oh no, I'm not getting members. No, we get to concentrate on just training and
That's
just
so cool. Yeah.
learning the techniques, but not so much that. I mean, look, the techniques and all that, anyone can fight, anyone can punch a fight. It's the mindsets and the values and all that type of stuff that come with karate. That karate is the vehicle for that type of stuff, for hard work and all that type of stuff. I mean, after my black belt grading, nothing, like anytime something's difficult in my life, I always, and a good friend of mine actually asked me this, and he's a highly successful businessman, one of my best friends. I've known him since preschool, and he's actually we've got a Shodan grading actually this afternoon, which we're going to after this. So and he's coming to watch. And the one key question he always asks the people with his clients when like I'm struggling, he goes, "Is this the hardest thing you've ever done?" Like that. I think after my Shodan grading and after going through that journey with karate and the blood, the sweat, the tears, anyone can do push-ups, but when you're sitting there on your knuckles, you go, most people go, "I'm going to have a break," and they stop. When you're up on your knuckles in that position, planking like that on the wooden floor, you go, "I'm going to stop," and you go, "No, I'm not." Like that. No, yeah. And that's karate is this amazing vehicle for that to go into our real life, into real life, into different our jobs, our relationships, everything. So please don't think ever that you're not going to achieve that dream, Chris. Yeah. Man, you can do that. Man, tell you what, if some little fat dude from a town of 2,000 people can do it, man, I tell you what, the guy in New York, there's more people in New York than I think Australia. There's a lot of people there, man, and don't. And the biggest thing is you will get to that point. You'll have your highs and lows with the dojo. I've literally been the most heartbroken in my life, but also the happiest I've ever been in the dojo, when students leave and all that. Yeah. But that's part of the journey. And you can do that, man. Anyone can.
Yeah, I will. One day. But yeah, thank you, man. So let's sort of move into sort of your, how would you say, accolades at tournament
cool.
fighting. So can you talk about your experiences in the, was it the Shidokan World Tournament that you fought in?
Yeah.
So, but did you? We had this conversation at the time, I think. But did you do the whole like marathon, or you just did the karate thing?
No, not the marathon. Yeah. Once again, kind of like that thing, like Jesus Christ, that's crazy, like that. It's the first time that we actually had the marathon, or actually seen the marathon. I don't think it's allowed to run in Australia. Like we have a lot of like, we're like the nanny country, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that looks dangerous, so we're not going to do that type of thing. We actually don't have a Shidokan, or there's a Shidokan club that is run by Sensei Chris, who's one of the fantastic person, really, really nice guy. And in that world tournament, he was there, and these guys barely knew me, and they were like in my corner, "Let's go, man, you got it," all that type of stuff. So I got a lot of love and respect for those guys. We actually don't have a Shidokan kind of tournament over here with Shidokan rules. Mm-hmm. So pretty much we have this, there's a style that's run by Kancho Peter Malonis, which is Kempo Genburu, okay, which is a Kempo style. And he's been around for a very, very long time. And I've got a lot of respect for Kancho Pete, because he's given me a lot of advice in regards to kind of like, like running clubs and all that type of stuff, which has been fantastic. And also been there when I was over in the Shidokan tournaments and stuff like that. They've got their national tournament, and it's open to all styles, no matter what. So don't care if you're from that group or you're from that group. You've had like rival actual Kyokushin groups fight each other in that tournament, and it's the only chance that they've been able to do that. For what I mean? So there's no no one from Japan like going slapping their wrists, going, "No, you can't, you can't look at them without being expelled," and stuff like that. So it's been really cool to have those see that. And obviously that's the selection tournament for the to go to the Shidokan World Tournament. So that Shidokan World Tournament was amazing. I loved it. I love their karate rule set. It stops the flurrying. Where you get the kind of and I know IKO is doing that now with the new rule set which they're bringing in, which I think is fantastic. It stops the brawls, and it actually makes people go, I'm hoping it stops this and that. They're going to come out, and it's going to be like the tournaments, from the 80s and 90s, where it's here, and they're having to pick their shots and think, because, if you go in for like a good Shurangyaku and, you get someone who just goes, okay, well, your shoulders down, crack, head kick, all that type of exciting stuff's going to happen again. And I think karate's lost that, you know what I mean? The Shidokan rule set's fantastic. The grabbing the gi and then the groundwork as well. It's quite well rounded. I love that. And I also love the Sabaki rule set of like, Ashihara and Enshin, which is I've been very lucky to fight in Denver at the Sabaki Challenge in
Really?
2016.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went over there once again, having not done it at all. Went in and just had the time of my life. I fought the former middleweight champion, and I was kind of like, Sensei Fernando Nona from Peru, actually from Lima. Shout
Wow.
out to him. He's a legend. I love that dude. And we had a great fight. It was fantastic. And is all the grabbing and stuff like that. I love that because it does shut down those horrible type of things. But that marathon, that's probably going to be, a goal maybe later on. I really want to go win. I mean, it's been a 10-year goal for me for that Shotokan World Tournament. When I decided, okay, I'm going to do this, I went in the Peter Malonis's tournament circuit that they've got there. I came second in their Australian Championships. Got picked for an Australian squad, went over to Japan, and I didn't fight Shotokan. I fought in there in the JMACs, which is a very tiny offshoot of the Australian one over there. They're all Japan, which it was a tiny tournament. I won it, so I was pretty happy. And I think that was my second tournament ever, pretty much. I went over there and I was like, oh, cool, awesome. And then from there, it just exploded. And but that marathon rule set's fantastic. And it puts, once again, an ultimate test, how many people do you know, like a fantastic, knockdown karateka, and as soon as that guard from here has to go to here, they're lost. They go bang, 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 and you're playing basketball with their head. Then you've got, the MMA, the last round's MMA. So you get some guy who's a brown belt or even that, a blue belt in BJJ. Yeah. Or an experienced white belt. They just grab your leg and that's it. So it's amazing tournament. I cannot wait to get back this year. So it's going to be good.
That's awesome. Yeah. So just to go over it, so that marathon that we're talking about, right? So the first round is knockdown,
full contact karate. Yeah, knockdown, and that's including
with grab.
Yep. So you got a 3-second clinch. Obviously you can grab anywhere. You're allowed to grab the gi and all that type of stuff. So 3-second clinch. It's near sun like that, and if you're still clinching, they'll stop it. Right. After that, throw? You turn. Yeah, you can throw. Oh yeah, absolutely. In the finals, because I was lucky enough to get second place in that world tournament, and in the finals, I was up against a fellow American of yours, Adrian Weathersby, who is an amazing, an amazing fighter. I actually got I managed for the first time ever in a competition to pull off like a suplex. Kind of grabbed him and went wee over the top, and I kind of went, oh my god, like to surprise myself. I kind of went, oh wow, like that. It's amazing. So you can throw and all that type of stuff, and then you've got 5 seconds on the ground. So chokes and all that type of stuff might work if you kind of maybe set them up as the throw's going. But you're looking at the major joint manipulations and the nasty stuff. Anything's allowed. So things like heel hooks, which are like, life changes, people walk like penguins for the rest of their life after that, so yeah, heel hooks, toe holds, all that kind of real nasty stuff is allowed. So, it takes 1.5 seconds for that to get set up properly. And then, you can break someone's leg. So that's the thing. It's super dangerous and super fun. So that's the first round. Second round's K1. And they come take their gi top off and they put their gloves on and then they go for it for a round. They're 3-minute rounds too. And then the second one is MMA. Just pure MMA.
Just pure. Like small gloves,
right?
everything.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I remember sitting there watching it. I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, man.
So that's the marathon for Shotokan.
Cool. All right. So then let's move into, so was that your first, so the first time you went to Japan was for that small little tournament?
Yeah. That was in 2014. So 2014, I went to Japan. That was for that small tournament. And what an experience, eh? Like, I didn't know what to expect from Japan. I kind of had this expectation that people would be polite and stuff, but wow, it blew my mind. And look, being the foreigner, you don't even know if they hate you or not. They always just nod and smile, and they're kind of like dickheads like that. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, sorry, like, which is true, right? Like, they always, so we saying, they look at you and go, yeah, they just smile. You got no idea what they're thinking, right? But we did a good trip. We were there for Tokyo. We went to Fuji, Kyoto, went to like Nara. We were in Hiroshima, and we managed to get the last Shinkansen across to Ito. because there was a big typhoon coming. And they're
Oh
like, oh,
wow.
you know, and once again, talking about natural disasters, I've never seen people so calm in my life. Like, you know, it wasn't even on the news. Like, my parents messaged me and they're like, Ben, like, take cover. There's this typhoon. It's ruined Okinawa. We're like looking at the footage, like, oh my God, what's going on? And they're like, oh, maybe stay inside. I'm like, you're not going to have a building. All right. So we kind of got on the last Shinkansen across the Ito, and, you know, Hiroshima got flooded and got pretty messed up from it. Yeah, I don't think it was like major, you know,
No,
they're
yeah.
not worried at all. You know, so, and then we went to Ito, and, you know, there was some cool stuff, you know, around there. I love that area.
Yeah.
And then, I think the next time I went was, I don't think the next time would have, I can't even remember. I've been there a few times. I've been very fortunate. I fought everywhere in the world, like Europe,
Very cool. Yeah.
US, like
Was
Singapore, and all that type
was
of
that
stuff. But
Enshin tournament the first time your first time in America?
no, second time. So I've been through America before. I was in LA. I had like a stopover in LA
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years ago when I was I played hockey over in Europe when I was a teenager, and our flight got cancelled because of fog, and we had, instead of going back that way, we went to Canada, and then we were supposed to go to Honolulu. Then there was an earthquake, so we went to LA, and then it was just like this, like everywhere.
The endless
So
trip.
yeah, dude. Like I did a 360 around the world for free, so I was like, I couldn't complain. But yeah, like Denver was the first time that we, you know, spent some time in the US. I was only there for a week. The Sparky Challenge, that was fantastic, and what a great group of people they are. They, you know, they were like, you know, at that point saying your application can be denied if we don't think you're up to standard and stuff. So I just put like my credentials with the Australian tournaments that I've won, and you know, my K1 record, which was like 2-0 or whatever, which is nothing. I haven't done a K1 again since then. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. I was like, oh, fantastic. And Mike Namomi's wife, I think her name Diana, she was fantastic in helping us, all that type of stuff, getting across and organising accommodation. And so that was really cool. That was awesome. And
awesome.
yeah, it's they're such a great group of people. I think that's going to be one of my goals. If I do win the shit, I kind of go back and try have a go at that, give it another shot. I think
I would go out to watch. I think,
dude.
I've never been to Colorado.
Please, it's like you guys have, like, we have weird landscapes here in Australia. We've got, like, you know, this desert that you can't survive in for like 2 days, and then lush tropical, like, kind of paradise up in Queensland, and then like nearly like winterland, like rolling greens down to Tasmania and rainforest, all dark, you know, cold. Yeah, so but like, it was really weird when we rocked up there. It was just flat, and then it's the Rockies, and you're like, what the hell? What's going on here? This is pretty cool. So, yeah, man, like, I mean, that's a goal. But the biggest thing is, once again, it's the finances of flying everywhere.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you feel the altitude when you were?
Yes.
Like,
fighting
at altitude, it must be insane.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It was kind of like, we were there for about 3-4 days. You kind of got used to it. You know, I had to I was cutting weight for that tournament. I used to fight under 90 kilos for a lot. The lightest I fought was 78, you know, at 6'2", yeah. So
that's
I was just
rail
like,
thing.
yeah, dude. I looked like I'd been on crack cocaine for a long time. Like, you know, my face was so gaunt. You know, I was cutting weight for that, and I was on the treadmill, and I was kind of like, oh man, like, this kind of sucks. You know, like, it's a bit harder to breathe. You adapt quite quickly, but yeah, I think, you know, if we were any higher, you know, it kind of makes a big difference. But it's if you're there for a few days, you're okay, you know. I can't remember, you know, ever going like gasping for air. Maybe if I'm just unfit, like maybe if I didn't do the prep, But that was such a cool tournament, the Sabaki one, man.
Yeah. So, and then most recently, like last month or so, you fought in the Rengokai. Was it All Japan or World Tournament?
No, World Tournament. Their World Tournament. So their first one after COVID, which was fantastic. Dude, what an experience that was. That was amazing. They had some, bro, the fighters there so good. Like, you know, Yuhei Ashitaka, who won it, you know, and then like Shoshigamatsu, who is scary scary dude, like, so some of these, he's getting on more Aussies, and it's like thunder cracking, bang, bang. Loved it. My favorite fighter, but I can't remember his name. He's from Canada, actually. And
Oh,
he was
really?
amazing. He got the top 8, and dude, he was so good. Like, he's really built. He's a big guy, but man, like, he was just fantastic. His
Oh, I
timing,
remember him. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
because I was watching you fight, like, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
on the stream or whatever, and like I woke up early or something, and then I remembered it was streaming, so I was able to catch your fights. But
Yeah.
yeah, that guy he was like really tall and kind of
Yeah.
lanky, and yeah,
Yeah.
but his fight game was like
Perfect. Perfect,
perfect. Yeah,
man. And
yeah.
like, I wish I caught up with him. I would have loved to catch up and be like, man, like, you're my favorite fighter at the tournament, man. Like, although he didn't win, I was just like, he just did some really cool stuff, out of the box stuff, you know what I mean, that you don't really see too much of in the Kyokushin tournaments, because obviously,
Mhm.
as I was saying before, it's very incestual with our way, our way, our way. So we did a lot of things that was kind of like, yeah, awesome, cool. Yeah, that the Rengo Karate Union, once again, like, such a welcoming group of people. The how that all eventuated was after our borders opened. The first tournament that I was like, and this was literally going to be the make or break of my career. If I didn't win this tournament in Australia or do well or just lost the flame, I was just going to retire and give up and
Mhm.
go to dad life and get nice and fat and grade to my 6 stand as quick as possible and be 140 kilos, that fat Xi'an walking around with the Shinai. It was the South Pacific titles that Xi'an Wayne Hishin and his beautiful partner Hitomi were running up at Whit Sundays, which is this amazing, beautiful place in Queensland. It's like world renowned for its beauty and being a holiday destination. So we went over for that. Me and one of my students, Bridget, and we went over. We won, and he was like, mate, look, have you fought in a world tournament before? And I told him, I've fought in Spain. I fought in the WKB, the first WKB European Championship. In 2017, I think it was their open one. I can't remember if it was the first. I think it was. And then I fought in the first Atlantic Cup Ocean 2 weeks later in Portugal. Singapore, the Singapore full contact tournament, which was, I'll get back to that, the best tournament I've ever been to in my life.
Oh wow.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Did Peter Chong or what was that?
Nah,
His tournament?
not Peter Chong. It was
Okay.
run through Shin Kyokushin, the WKO.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I told him, yeah, I've been, I've fought in world tournaments, and then obviously second place in Shinokan. And he was like, he goes, Shinokan. I was like, Siono Yoshiji, I think that's his name. That's the country of it. He was like, oh yeah, because obviously, Xian Wayne was, in Hombu during the 70s.
So
like
he
for
would have known
Kyokushin. So he
Soeno, yeah.
he knew everyone that I was saying. It was quite actually awesome. And he's like, yeah, we'll get in contact. It's next April. All right, yep, no problem. Then, that was in May. Then we get to August. He's like, hi, Ben. I get an email. Hi, Ben, how you doing? Hey, Xian. It was a phone call, actually. And he's one of the most laid-back people in the world. Oh, Ben, how you going? Yeah, Xian, how are you? Hey, you still thinking about coming over? I'm like, yeah. Like, I've started kind of getting ready for it now. I'm just getting a plan and all that type of stuff. We need your entry forms now. I'm like, it's next April. He's like, yeah, they're very organised. Like, okay, all right, no problem. So entry forms in, and then this was the first time, they're like, because I was like, and my question was, look, I'm not from your group, and the last thing I'm going to do, I wear a blank gi to every tournament. Like, we have it, Arjuken has their badge. I wear a blank gi nearly all the time now, because I, obviously I don't want to get certain people in trouble and all that type of stuff if there's certain rules that I'm not aware of. And he's like, you can wear your badge, we don't care. And I'm like, no, like, I'll wear a blank gi, and obviously is it going to be okay? He's like, yeah, no problem like that. The help that these people gave us to get ready for the tournament, organise accommodation, and not just that, when we were there, Xian Wayne and Sensei Hitomi, like, they were like buying us breakfast and stuff like that, because like, you're a fighter, we need to support you and stuff. And I've always felt very welcomed by every group that I've ever been involved with. Obviously going to their tournaments, always nice, always, super welcoming and thankful, obviously for when we fly across, even to the East Coast, everyone's super, because it's a big trip. They're always super happy to have us and all that type of stuff. But the support that I got from Xian Wayne and Sensei Hitomi, it was so heartwarming, and I'm forever in debt for that because I'd never really ever felt anything like that from any group before. So that tournament was fantastic, and the support that we had from the other Australians there, who just literally went over for the grading was the next day, went for the grading, but they came and watched the tournament, and people that we only just briefly met and within the country a few times, coming up and acting like family, and it made a huge difference. Where normally we go to these tournaments overseas by ourselves, like we
Yeah,
two,
yeah.
three people, we're kind of like that. People coming up, strangers, good work, you can do it and stuff, and it made a huge difference when you're on the tatami and you actually hear someone go Ben, like that, and I go, oh, all right, like that, and you get that address. Someone's watching, so that was a great tournament, man. It was fantastic. So I want to go. I think maybe in 4 years, because they only happen every 4 years because of the open weight tournaments. Like it's world tournament season,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that'll probably be my last open weight tournament that I go in before I retire in 4 years' time. I'll set that goal and
Good.
hopefully get higher than where I went. So
Good for you, man.
yeah.
Back you all the way, man. That's
Thank
so.
you. I couldn't believe like you tagged me in that Instagram story, and I know the time difference is insane, and like just things like that, Chris. You understand it, things like that. It's some of the most heartwarming things. You kind of go. I've been doing it for 10 years, and 10 years full time. Training normally twice a day, 6 days a week. It's just like doing the dishes and folding your clothes now. Just get up and do it. And then just to hear someone like yourself send that message and all that, and anyone who's listening should be doing this for anyone that's competing. It is such the littlest things. Like maybe I'm different, I don't know, but like things like that really spur me on to go, I'm doing the right thing, I'm training hard and all that type of stuff.
I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad
yeah,
that boosted your spirits a little bit. But
yeah.
I did it at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. For me, it was
Yeah,
nothing.
that's
It was
it, man.
nothing,
Like,
but yeah.
hey, no, seriously, and it's. But I think if everyone actually, it doesn't matter whether it's karate or not, stand back and do that. World's a lot better place when you put a little smile on someone's face.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so let's change the topic here. So I know you mentioned that within Australia there is a little bit of a rivalry and stuff like that.
Yep.
And you can you, I don't want to step on your toes, or you can talk about things however comfortable you want to get in.
Yep.
You want to get or whatever. But I don't really know. I know some things about the knockdown scene in Australia, but
Yep.
can you tell me a little bit about it? Like as far as like you know what are the active organizations or like the main organizations that you spoke a little bit about some of them, but that put on tournaments that you either have entered or want to enter but don't for whatever
Yeah.
reasons.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much how I see the knockdown scene right now is and we obviously have there's an Ashihara group that's in Melbourne. They're quite small. I don't know too much about them. I think they're run by Shian Mark Cousins. I haven't met him before. I know that they're there. There's an Enshin group. I think, and now I hope you guys, if you hear me, please correct me. It's either Sensei or Shian. I'm not sure. Dino Lucas. They're the Enshin group, and they are awesome as well. But I don't really think they're too active within the tournament scene. The main groups that I've seen now active within Australia is Sokyokushin, which is run by Dogo. Hello. Yeah. Come here, quick, give me a kiss and go away. Go. Say hi. All right, go, run, please, go. All right, sorry.
It's okay.
So Kyokushin's extreme. They're pretty active, and I think the branch chief for that's Shian Cameron Quint, who's obviously legendary. And then we've got World Zen Kyokushin, which is Hasegawa's break-off group from So Kyokushin. Now, they're pretty big in Australia as well. We do have Matsui Group, and obviously that's run by Shian Nick Kujic, who is obviously a legend in Australian karate. He's fantastic, and I think his son was Anushi Deshi with Matsui for like maybe 4 or 5 years in Japan.
He was. So when I think he was there for my entire. So when I went to study abroad in 2013, when I would go to like the tournaments or whatever in Tokyo, you know, is he Sensei now? Sensei Steven? Where
Yes, yeah,
he
I think he is.
yeah,
He's a third or fourth or
or
something like that. I'm not quite
something like
sure. Yeah.
that. Yeah, he was fighting at the time, and then when I lived there in 2015 as a teacher, I actually sat either in front or behind his like little group, like his
Mm.
supporters. So it was good to speak English for a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
while.
yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah.
At that tournament where I was fully expecting to be. It was an all Japan tournament, so of course there were
Yep.
some like Russian fighters and stuff like that, but it tends to be
He won. I'm pretty sure he won that, didn't he?
he got pretty high, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's won some pretty. Sensei Stephen Kujik's won some
Mm.
pretty prestigious
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Hey, like he's incredible.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just moving across because my daughter looks like something from a horror movie at the moment. So it's over there.
It's all right.
So yeah, Sensei Stephen Kuji, he's done quite well. So we do have the Matsui group here,
Mm.
Shin Kyokushin as well. Look, I don't think they're as big. They are still big, like they're
Mhm.
enormous group. I mean, every one of these groups are enormous compared to, like, say, ours. But the fighters that the Shin Kyokushin group are just A tier, dude. Like, they are incredible. So you got the Shin Kyokushin. There's a few independent groups and stuff like that. Sensei Carl Sullivan runs he's quite prominent on the internet.
Mm.
He runs, and especially within Australia anyway, he's got his Greenstone Karate as well. But for me, I'm seeing a lot more activity from, I'd say, Sokyokushin. And obviously Kempo Ryu as well, Kancho Peter
Mm.
Malonis. Kancho Doug Turnbull, who broke away from the IFK. We've got IFK here, once again, very small and all that type of stuff. And then obviously Xian Judd's group, which is Shikara International, which is, once again, I think quite small, but man, they produce some pretty heavy hitters, as you can imagine. A lot of people go and train with Xian Judd, and Xian Judd, obviously huge inspiration for me. Very much. I try. He's extremely busy these days, but back in the day, I used to try and contact him, asking for advice, like as a mentor. He was fantastic. So he
I
helped
mean,
me. He's helped me out
he's
a lot.
even nice to me online,
Yeah.
like on Facebook, like just if I post stuff about like Japan or something, like he'll, because he's had that experience, right? So he'll post something like a comment very that's very nice and supporting. So I can't, he's such a cool guy, and you've actually fought on his like like those dinner shows, right? Or like
it's an actual fight night. It's really it's weird. It's a dinner show. That's pretty much what it is. Like there's people sitting there eating like grilled fish and salad and stuff, and there's like two people dying on the stage. It's just like it's like I kind of imagine it's like the Roman Colosseum thing where everyone's like like, oh yes, this is nice, and some person's like got their teeth missing on the stage. He runs these amazing events. I've had the opportunity years and years ago. He asked me to be on his first one, and I was like, oh, absolutely, what an honor. Thank you so much. It was an 8-man eliminator. It got cancelled, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure the Victorian Combat Commission jumped onto it and pretty much went, no, hang on, what the hell are you guys doing? You can't run a fight night, without us knowing. So that happened. And then what happened for years and years and years, it was kind of like, oh, doing a fight on this one. I was like, oh, look, I've got a tournament in Singapore, or I've got this. I remember one time he goes, oh, do you want to fight this? I've got one coming up, Ben, could you? And I felt, it's one of those things that you don't want to say no to because you don't know if you're going to get asked again.
But he's going to be, he's going to stop asking eventually.
Yeah, exactly right. Can you fight this? I'm like, oh, my daughter's been born a week later. I'm like, God damn it, like that. So after the South Pacific Champions and last year, I came back. I wasn't really too injured. I felt pretty good. And he called up and said, hey, man, look, we've got this fight night on. It's a one match. Do you want to do it? It's against a really good fighter, Mitchell McDowell, who I'd never fought before because obviously I just hadn't been in his organisation's tournaments before, but obviously knew who he was and stuff. So I was just like, yeah, okay, let's go. Let's do it. 3 weeks notice. I'm feeling still kind of fit, No problem. I did have a bit of a celebration, and obviously I'm not straight edge, so like it's kind of, yeah.
Whatever, man.
Alcohol is the worst thing for your cardiorespiratory system. So I turned around, I went, yep, no problem. That was for 3 weeks. I got straight back into training, felt good moving around, and then tore my calf really badly in training. So I kind of went, I haven't really explained this kind of story before. The guys who I was training with, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I just started wrapping up straight away, and I drove from there. The physio I've been with for the past 10 years, who knows what I do, I rocked up, kind of limped in and went, help. And he kind of moved appointments for me and got me in. He's like, yeah, dude, look, it's a grade 1. When you're fighting 3 weeks, he goes, you'll be fine. No problem. Went in feeling good, all that type of stuff. First round was fantastic against Mitch and all that type of stuff. And it's a proper fight night. You got walkout music. I walked out to Fire Inside by a statement of pride, pretty much.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, hell yeah. Because it was like this resurrection. I turned around after 3 years locked away. I'm like, I'm going to fight every 2 weeks. I'm going to do this, blah, blah. Went in the first round and copped a calf kick and retore it. So pretty much I went, oh, okay. Then we did I went second round, third round I dropped. I just couldn't stand on it anymore. And then literally lost. And yeah, it was a shame. I wish, I was happy that Mitch, still gave me the fight and all that type of stuff. It was a good fight. He's a tough dude, Mitch, and so much respect for him. He came and made sure I was okay. And I was like, look, yeah, I couldn't walk. And I was like, completely bruised up. It just bruised straight away. So I just wrapped it up. I had to get a flight 5 a.m. So I was like, look, I'll grab, a thing in Australia, you buy each other a beer, in return. I was like, I'll come out and buy a beer. I think by the time I got out, he'd already left, which was a shame. Oh, you're right.
All right, so we're back again. We had some major computer problems. My computer died, and we cut off our conversation. So we're just gonna do the tail end of this, what I planned for this conversation. So no more karate talk. We're gonna so sorry, Ben, if I cut you off in the middle.
No, that's all right.
Whatever story you were telling.
I just think you turned your computer off. You're like, oh, I've had enough. Let's just turn him off.
But all right, so let's for the last bit or so talk about both of our other passions, which is hardcore punk and hardcore music in general.
Yeah.
So how did you get into hardcore? Like what?
So I am a bodyboarder, and I tried to skate. I guess I was terrible at it, but obviously a lot of punk and hardcore and stuff's like deeply rooted in those type of sports. Mm-hmm. So that was it. We literally just had this. People show us music, listening to it in their car, driving to a spot to surf, or that type of stuff, or watching it on surf videos. And I was like, man, this stuff rules. This is so cool. It makes me want to do everything. So I pretty much just got into it through there, and then as I got older, I started, obviously internet's the best thing in the world. They didn't have to wait for some zine or a demo from Thrasher to come. It was kind of like, you could just look it up and, oh, wow,
MySpace,
check this band out. Check this MySpace, dude. And so that shows my age. I think I just got 6 more wrinkles in my forehead.
I'm right there with you, man. So,
dude, what a time to grow up, in that first era of social media where you just, a band's touring, and you'd see it on like a bulletin. You go, cool, like that. You didn't have to worry about a physical poster. It was just like, you're there. You drive here and do this. So, punk and hardcore played a huge part in my life, and metal as well. I'm a avid music fan. I play instruments, all that type of stuff. So I love punk, hardcore, metal, rock, psytrance, everything. You get hip hop, everything. I love every type of music, but the one that got me and gripped me was obviously punk and hardcore. And literally, I think because of the ethos behind it, like there was a lot of the same messaging you got from karate. I mean, okay, Hatebreed, for example. Yeah. Come on, I mean, Hatebreed,
so uplift, dude.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, the amount of time, and like Terror, for example. Terror is like my favorite band of all time. One with the Underdogs. That's my go-to when I'm feeling like I need to pick up, and that's it. It's the message and all that type of stuff is so related to karate, pretty much. I think that's why I got into that, and it's goddamn good. Riffs are good for lifting weights too. Let's
Oh
be
yeah.
honest, man. I think it's scientifically proven that if you listen to Terra while deadlifting, you can lift 100 kilos more, right? So
Yeah.
it's just an easy step across. And like, you know, I got involved with bands and in the hardcore scene over here in Perth and in New South Wales, in my hometown as well. We had a small one there that we used to drive, you know, we used to have to drive a few hours down to Newcastle and stuff like that as well. Met some amazing people. Also met some of the worst people I've ever met in my life in hardcore. Like, wow, you know, there's good and bad and everything, but man,
Some maladjusted people.
oh, dude, very strong opinions in hardcore as well. You know, like you could be sitting there having a beer, and someone's like, "Why would you do that?" What do you mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just relaxing, chill out like that. So, you know, obviously the subcultures within it are insane. So,
Yeah. But that's I'm glad that you said that you found parallels like within hardcore and karate. You know, I'm the same. Like, um, I it started with hardcore as well, like and punk and sort of like I was like a new metal kid. I was like a Korn and Slipknot kid growing up, and um, but yeah, like when I found hate, like my uncle gave me a Hatebreed record when I was like,
oh, your uncle gave
my
you Hatebreed. This is
uncle.
the coolest fucking uncle ever. Hey, check
Yeah,
this out. Yeah, it's called
thanks.
Perseverance. I think you'll like it. Yeah,
Thanks, Uncle Brian. Changed my whole life. But
yeah.
yeah, I heard Hatebreed, and it was such an uplifting message, despite how incredibly hard it was, right? But
Oh yeah.
it was, but to stay to persevere, right, and to I think that it's that perseverance song and that lyric and that whole like all the lyrics in that song coincided with the taekwondo school I was at the time. Part of their creed was like they had like different tenets like perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit or something. And
No.
I heard
Did
that like
Jamie Jasta write that?
I know, dude. I was like but I heard that perseverance, and I was like, this guy's talking about it. We're talking about it in class. Like, I got to learn one what this word means, right? But
Yeah.
also, like, and I think that that word has sort of carried over into like my whole life. Actually, like kyokushin, like os means to
Yes.
is a contraction of the Japanese phrase or oshishinobu, right? So to persevere through hardship. And once I heard that in Kyokushin, I was like, I'm staying. Like this is
Ooh,
what I'm
yeah. I'm
supposed to be
home.
doing, right?
Yeah.
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 But and within, I know you're not straight edge. That's totally cool. Like it's not for everyone, but it's something I identified with
Mm.
very young, and especially like I had family members that struggled with addiction, and that addiction sort of led to cancer in one case,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that it took my grandfather away from me, right? So the drugs, and not the drugs, but cigarettes and smoke and drinking and stuff like that, like
Yeah. Yeah.
so that turned me off from a very young age. And getting into hardcore and learning what straight edge was a
Oh man.
lifesaver, right? For me, like it was something I could identify with, that I could put, although a lot of people say that they prefer no labels or something, to put a label to an idea that I had or a feeling that I had, and have not necessarily a scene, because New York City at the time, like I wasn't involved in any of it was mostly like deathcore and like kind of metalcore bands at the time. So
Yep.
I and those kids were always a lot tougher than me, despite
Mm.
like
Mm.
me doing martial arts or whatever. Like so they kind of intimidated me, so I didn't really have a scene or anything or involvement in that. So I was always kind of the loner hardcore kid in my whole life until I sort of into my college years and stuff like that. Like, so it, having straight edge and having hardcore, at least in my headphones by myself, or going to Kyokushin or going to Taekwondo during the summer, like it was definitely something that I relied on. It was although straight edge kids like to say they have no crutches, it is still a crutch, right? That I can lean on the
Yes and
support,
no. I don't think
supportive,
so.
yeah,
Yeah,
more so in
yeah.
a supportive way, right? That if I'm down, if when I was, down about, not going to Japan, like all I did was listen to hardcore, like, and
Yeah, 100%. And
it's a lifesaver to me, and I can't even
yeah,
express it in words, right? But the
I
feeling.
definitely know. And look, like I like that. There is a straight edge scene here in
Yep.
Australia, and it's without straight edge, we would not have half the amazing music that we get to listen to. So,
Mm.
like, although I'm not straight edge, like I don't smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
Shit's horrible,
Yeah.
I do drink, when I'm training, I don't. It's simple as
Mm.
that. It's very much it's ingrained. Australia's got a drinking culture like Japan, really.
Sure.
Like, they're very, very much the same. It's straight edge. Straight edge for me was kind of something that was such a positive thing for people, and obviously you hear these horrible stories about addiction and taking family members, like you just expressed then. It's horrible, and I've got nothing but respect for the straight edge, man, and like the bands that have been produced for that. Some straight edge people are the loosest units I've ever come across in my life, man. Like, where I'm like, man, I'm not going to dance like that. I need to have like 10 beers before I get up and dance like that. And I'm like, the most sober person in Perth is up there dancing with like 3 other girls right now and so confident. I'm like, damn, man, like that's some testicular fortitude, like they're out there having the time of their life. They don't need it. And I've got nothing but respect for the straight edge because the music, dude, like especially like, so I'm a big youth crew dude,
Mm.
a big melodic hardcore dude. Obviously, I love all music. I love, you're talking about deathcore and like slam and stuff. I love that too. As a musician, that stuff's insane to play. Like, it's so
Yeah,
hard.
it's so
It's so
hard.
hard. Like, I've just recently started drums up in the past 2.5 years, and I'm just like, how the hell do they move so fast? Like, this is insane. But like, youth crew and like the melodic hardcore and stuff, like we've talked about like Australian bands and stuff like that, like Miles Away and like, oh dude, like those.
Miles Away. I love Miles Away. So
Dude, yeah. Did you like that EP I sent
I
you?
did, yeah. It
Insane,
was
right?
so sick, yeah.
That's one with the underdogs in that EP. My favorites of all time, like, and they're absolute kind of parallel. And it was around 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
That was the golden era of hardcore for me, dude. Like, just all this amazing music. Like, you had stuff like Champion come out.
Have Heart.
Have Heart, yeah, dude.
Guns
How could you
Up,
forget?
yeah.
Guns Up. Like, I could go on all day. Like, there was just this amazing influx of bands from all different. I'd say like on the spectrum of hardcore, from all different. Your metallic hardcore, melodic hardcore, straight up hardcore, riffs, crossover. Everything just went bang out like that. And wow, like what a time that we got to grow up in. It's the biggest problem was we had download limits and 56K modems then, so it used to take so long to download things. But like I had a lot of good friends that were into it, and they'd be like, check this out, have a listen to this. The scene here in Australia right now is it was huge when I was heavily involved with it about 10 years ago. I'm going to shows like nearly every week, and I don't really get to go to shows anymore. It's more of a time and a priority thing. I went to 2 shows in one night last year, and I was like, dude,
Can't do it anymore.
I was the next day, I'm like, shit, kids are jumping all over me, and I did drink that night too, so I was like hungover, like my ears were ringing. I was like, oh my God, I'm too old for this. I went to Comeback Kid when they were here with Drain just the other day, and like, I was stage diving and stuff. Like, dude, I thought tournaments were difficult. Like, okay, I woke up the next morning, felt like I'd been in a car accident. Like, I was like, oh. But when I was heavily involved, like the bands, the shows were really good. Perth, once again, being one of the most isolated cities, has produced some absolute banger bands, like Miles Away, for example, Extortion, a heavier band from the Ruins was another one. Battle Truck, Extortion, if you're into power violence and stuff like that. Break Even, another melodic hardcore band. And like a million more, an absolute million more. But this, I kind of, when I walked away, it was a bit of a reflection moment that I kind of stopped going to shows. One of my bands had just broken up that I put a lot of effort into, and it kind of just fell apart. And I'm like, look, I'm done. And I started realizing that once again, we're talking about the parallels. Like, I always felt like that, everyone in hardcore is really nice. But when you actually step outside and look at that small pond, you got a lot of people that have been kind of, I don't fit in with society. They go into this even smaller pond of people, but then they kind of gatekeep and do horrible stuff like that. Like someone new comes in, they're like, oh, look at this guy. And you're like, you're doing exactly what you complained about with the world,
Yeah.
stop it. Just be a nice person. Is that who cares? Walk up. Hey, I haven't seen you before. Welcome to, come hang out with us. They might be a weirdo and you might not like them. Just don't talk to them again. Like that's it. It's a very, and it took me to step outside and kind of look in at that and go, oh, this is not anywhere near as nice as I thought it was. But I still talk to all, like some of my best mates, were made through hardcore. We still have the most funniest stories of when like their bands are on tour and stuff like that. Like just once again, straight edge dudes being the loosest units. A lot of nudity actually, which is kind of a bit odd. It's like, put your pants back on, all right? You're not even drinking. What are you doing? So it was great. I love hardcore. I owe so much to it those days where I'm kind of feeling really, really down. Once again, like yourself, I'll be on the way to work and my work's quite tough and I get in the car and I'm driving, I've just got Spotify shuffle on and then Terror comes on. I'm like, oh, I think I can do this. And like In My Eyes or Youth of Today come on. I'm like, oh, all of a sudden I'm yelling like Ray Capo in the traffic. So it's like, it's great. And Australia right now, Speed. So
Speed, dude. They played in the beginning of April in Brooklyn.
Yep.
One of the coolest shows I've ever been to. It was
that's awesome, bro.
Unbelievable how like
that's cool.
And just to they were even surprised, right? They said like we're just kids from Sydney and like to play in New York City and to have this reaction is like unbelievable, and it was truly like an experience, and I through you and through Speed, like I learned about AWOL, which is another
dude, yeah, they're hard as
awesome
nails,
band,
yeah.
But yeah, so I through our talks throughout the years, like you've introduced me to a lot of Australian hardcore bands, and they've all been very, very good. So yeah, just to sort of wrap up like this hardcore talk, like sort of what you were saying is that there are a lot of maladjusted people within the hardcore scene, and
yeah, certainly is. I mean, okay, I'll bring one thing up which actually made me nearly actually burnt the shirt. Like, obviously, I'm a high school teacher. Obviously, hearing about like the vocalist from Champion and stuff like that, and what he got up to, and dude, that was rough. And we also, I mean, there's been another instance of that within even the local scene here. He actually trained at my karate club too, which was, it was horrible, dude. And like that, I mean, brings tears to your eyes. So you feel so betrayed. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. But like, Champion's such a super uplifting band, and you're like, wow. And then you hear that and you go, can I listen to that band again? Like, am I able to, like, without knowing? And
you can.
You can, yeah. Oh, bro, promises kept. My God, the intro, like, for some reason, I'm sitting there with the intro and I'm like holding a beer, then I'm like putting it down and going, all right, with the text on, let's go.
Yeah. But what I was gonna say was like, maybe because a reason why maybe I didn't sort of look into to having a scene or being part of a scene more closely as a younger person was karate, because that was my hardcore wasn't everything to me, right? Although it is everything to me, right? But it wasn't my main outlet for aggression, right?
Yeah,
I could always go to karate or taekwondo, whatever you want to call it, and like that was my first love and my first outlet for aggression, and I think that was incredibly helpful to me in terms of not like becoming a psychopath.
Yeah, I get it, man.
Where like for other people, hardcore is everything to them, and getting out aggression. While I certainly support violent dancing and want to, because I, as a teenager, I would go to shows and stuff, and I certainly participated in some of that stuff. And
yeah, guilty here too, dude.
yeah,
Like, I can tell you, it's like,
but
how am I not? It's like Scott Vogel's telling me to do it, so I'm going to do it. Like, yeah.
But like, certainly within that, because we're sort of a community of what I would say outcasts or whatever, like I have never fit a mold in anything really, like even in karate or even in hardcore, but hardcore has been the closest thing I could say that I fit a mold into, or like I fit into a mold for. So I think because we're all sort of weirdos, it's kind of hard to get a bunch of weirdos together, right? So
well, they call it herding cats. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, come on, guys, and everyone just goes, man, I want to do my own thing,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I think that's a good place to end. So hopefully we can combine the two videos together, and
I hope so.
we'll get a full episode. But dude, I can't thank you enough for coming on, and this is such a great talk. It was great to meet you. I'm super down to talk outside of this podcast with you. Like I could, like we were saying before.
It's been years, man. It's been years. We should have done this. Don't even worry about the podcast, man. I'd love to sit down and chat with you like this.
Yeah.
Man, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity, man. It's a bit lost for words. Obviously, the support that I had with the Rengoku tournament and all that type of stuff, and the support that you've given me throughout the years. But to have the opportunity to sit here and talk about my experiences with with karate, and it's amazing, man. I really hope, from experience, I really hope the barriers do come down further within the groups, and everyone can just train together. Karate makes the world a lot better place, man. And So Sayama said that.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a big thing, So thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you so much, man. Os.
Os.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.